we are flying over to Fire Island, I believe, ahead of our conversation with Xiomaro. Good morning, Xio.
How are you this morning?
I am very well, very grateful to have you on with us. And there's so much going on and so many moving pieces of the story that I was putting it all together, and I was like, you know what? Let's just hear it straight from the photographer's mouth here. So first of all, four of your photographs will be part of an exhibit that Joshua Ruff, the co-executive director at the Long Island Museum, is curating. That's correct, right? The Seat of Action?
The Seed of Action, that's going to be starting on February 19th,
Okay.
2026. So we have a while before it
Oh,
starts, and it'll go till September.
okay. And we planned to do this on with prostate cancer and breast cancer awareness months in our hearts and minds. And why is that?
Okay. Well, see if I can give you the shorter version of this somewhat long story. But basically, I spent my career as an entertainment lawyer, representing lots of music artists. Didn't represent the act you just played now, getting their name now, but representing many dance artists, hip hop artists. But then what happened was
What kind of law?
around
I
two.
mean, like, I'm wondering if you were doing any of these free speech lawsuits, etc., and censorship.
I didn't do that sort of work, but I
Okay.
represented recording artists.
Uh-huh.
So I negotiated their record deals, their publishing
Oh.
deals.
Oh.
In one instance, I actually managed an artist named Lisa from Lisa and Cult Jam. So it was more representing them in their careers, their copyrights, trademarks, merchandising, things of that nature. A lot of dance artists, which was very big at the time. So that's why I'm recalling D-Light right now.
Yeah.
But I began as an artist myself, as a musician. So that's what transitioned me into wanting to represent kind of my tribe, so to speak.
Right. And how smart of you, and how lucky for the artists that have had you representing them and working on their behalf. Because I mean, a lot of this stuff, record deals, etc. You know, think about like Star Wars, for example, and how much money actors and actresses lost out on not making the best deal for themselves. You
That is
know.
very true. The artists, when they're new and they're starting out and they tend to be younger, they're so excited to get the deal that they're anxious to just sign it without asking too many questions.
Right.
And so it was a constant battle in trying to get artists to encourage using my services. I understood that it cost them money, obviously, for
Right.
legal fees, but they would spend money on guitars and other expensive studio equipment. So I was trying to get them to understand that investing in a lawyer can save them money in the long run by trying to steer them away from pitfalls that are very common in these contracts. And they're very complicated agreements. In some
Right.
cases, they ran as long as 60 pages or more.
And not only save money, but I imagine make money for folks in the long
Well,
run.
that is the important part. Yes, to make money. Sometimes the money that is made on the sale of the records themselves can be quite small because of the way they structure the deals. So sometimes the money has to really be earned doing live shows.
Yeah.
So any income stream that can be preserved, to the artist's benefit is really critical. It all starts to add up after a while.
All right. Well, so when did the switch happen for you?
Yeah, the switch happened. I guess it was back in 2004. I was feeling some pain when I was going to the bathroom, and I was very, very busy at the time. So I kind of delayed going to my annual physical, which up until that time I've been pretty good with. I always went every year without fail. But I delayed it by a couple of months, and when I finally went, they did a PSA blood exam,
Right.
and it turned out that I had prostate cancer, or so they thought. We did several other tests, and it was confirmed that's indeed what I had. And I'll never forget, he told me that had I delayed a little bit further, it might have been worse, where the cancer would have spread all over, and it would have been a big problem.
Oh, it might have
So because it was caught
metastasized.
exactly,
Mm.
I mean, they still weren't sure. What happened was because it was caught early enough, rather than going through chemotherapy, they suggested just having the entire prostate removed. And so even though biopsies showed that it was restricted to the prostate, they said they really wouldn't know until they actually go in there and do the operation.
Mm.
So it was pins and needles for a while there. And during that 6-month period that I had to wait for the operation, because you don't just get them the next day, I did a lot of soul searching, a lot of thinking. And then I decided, if I get out of this thing, okay, I can't go back to what I was doing before. I got to do something new.
Why is that?
And my heart was,
what was the feeling like for you?
well, I seriously had to start thinking about death,
Right.
because once you go under the anesthesia, you don't know if you're going to come out of it. So, or if you do come out of it, you don't know what the outcome is going to be from the surgery. It could be that it spread, and it could be that it could be a bigger problem than what they thought. So my thinking was, okay, for 40 some odd years, I've done it, or not 40 some odd years, but for my career was maybe 25 years in the music industry as a lawyer and a manager. So I figured I did it one way for a while, and I enjoyed it, and it was good. But I've always put my own artistic, creative vision to the bottom. I always tried to do it a little bit when I could, but it was always, at the bottom of the list. So I said, let me try putting it at the top of my list and see if I can have a go at it. Unlike other artists, I'm better prepared in the sense that I understand how the business and legal side of things work.
Right.
I've benefited from the experience of representing literally hundreds of clients over the years, and I've learned what's worked for them and what hasn't. So at the time, I started doing some coffee house gigs as a singer-songwriter. And those went pretty well. But what was interesting was that I was selling more of my photographs
Wow.
than my CDs. What happened was when I came out of the operation, I was kind of depressed and I was kind of lost. I didn't know what to do. But I found a lot of solace in just wandering the national parks with a camera and photographing. What's great about photography is I don't need a band to create a project. I can just do it.
Right.
I can stay up all night if I wanted to finish something. With a band, which I had for a while, you always got to consult with people, and not everybody's, on board or ready to go
It's
to the next
art.
step to try
It's
to.
art on other people's time.
That's a good way of putting it. It is. So with photography, what was great was I was just doing it just as a way to, do something creative without involving other folks. When I did these coffee house shows, I exhibited the photographs on a table, and people were just buying those up. And I was actually making more money on the photos than on the CDs. So that kind of indicated to me that this might be a path.
Yeah.
And so I ended up being accepted to an artist in residence program at a national park in Connecticut called Weir Farm National Historic Site. And that's really what kind of got the whole thing started, because I was able to work at this park in a historic cottage by myself for an entire month. And it just gave me time to check out of everyday life and really focus on what I want to do and take some serious photographs and get better at it. And that resulted in a series of media attention through photographs, exhibitions, and some years later, it resulted in a book that I wrote with a foreword written by Senator Joe Lieberman.
It's coming out,
So that
right?
kind of
Street photography in
so
New York
kinda,
City, street haunting in the Big Apple.
Well, that's my latest book. So that's going to
Oh.
be coming out on October 27th.
Oh, great.
People can pre-order it now if they want. It's called Street Photography of New York City. And that one, what's interesting about that is while I was pursuing this serious art career, I ended up taking a job at a law firm. When I was an entertainment lawyer, it was my own law practice. But when I got out of cancer, I started working at a law firm, to be honest, just to earn the income, just to have a way to
Right.
support myself while I pursue art. But it meant having to wait from one commission from the National Park Service. They were the ones kind of commissioning me to create these series of the different parks, like the one at Fire Island, for instance.
Right.
And I didn't want to wait from one commission to the other because it could be several months. So I started photographing during my commute from Long Island to my job in Midtown Manhattan. just photographing whatever I encountered on the street or in Times Square. And those photographs taken over a 10-year period has resulted in this book that's coming out on October 27th. So interesting how that worked out.
I'm so happy that you made this choice because, you think about when you're talking about thinking about death and you're thinking about what am I leaving behind, and photographs are one of the most beautiful things that you can, because we literally can see you and your perspective
That is very
far
true.
beyond you.
Yeah, and I think photography is more important now than it ever has been because of the internet and digital photography. So we're really in the golden age of it. People appreciate it more. They understand it better. They're more interested in it. And when you consider all the budget cuts that are happening in Washington, which is impacting the Park Service,
Right.
you never know. It might curtail visitor access to some of the parks. So the photographs that I'm taking of different national parks, might be an additional way for people to experience a park, especially if they're overseas and can't travel to the U.S. to see them.
Are you still being commissioned by NPS?
I am, and hopefully that will continue. Right now, I'm working on a project in Virginia. So I go there periodically to do this project. It's photographing George Washington Birthplace National Monument. And so we thought it was important to document that location. A lot of people are not aware of it. And as we approach the country's 250th anniversary next year, we thought these photographs would be really important for people to have an understanding of the founding of the country and
Agreed.
the ideals and principles behind it. As a lawyer, that's of particular importance to me. And again, if access to the public is curtailed to some degree,
right, and
these photographs are going to be more meaningful.
I think about this trend of manipulating and erasing American history, documenting these things and preserving these documentations is more important than ever before. Can you talk about your work on Fire Island, when and where and all the things, and what's there?
Yeah, well, what you brought up was very good. Like one of the commissions that I had from the Park Service was to photograph the William Floyd estate. That's part of the Fire Island National Seashore, but obviously it's on the mainland. And a lot of people don't know who William Floyd is. They know about the William Floyd Highway or the high school, but they may not know that he was a founding father, that he signed the Declaration of Independence, that he was a general that served under George Washington. So I was commissioned by the Park Service to photograph his home and also his estate. And as much as that was interesting to me, because I think it's important to know about this somewhat mysterious figure, a lot of William Floyd's possessions were ransacked by the British when they were on Long Island, so we don't know too much about him. But another thing that was mysterious to me was when I went there, I saw the William Floyd Family Cemetery, and next to it there was a slave cemetery. And a lot of people don't know about that slave cemetery, but I thought it was very moving because when people think about slavery or plantations, they tend to think of the South.
Right.
But here in the North, there was a northern plantation.
Yes, there was.
So, so that cemetery for them, I actually photographed both cemeteries side by side to show the comparison. And those were exhibited at the African Burial Ground National Monument in New York City, as well as Oyster Bay Historical Society. But it just gives you more nuance to the history. And although it's a dark period, it's also something that we should, kind of be proud of in the sense that we've, moved so far away from those times. So I don't think it's something that we should hang our heads in shame over, and just think of it that way. There's two sides to it. There's the progress that I think it represents, and it gives us encouragement to continue on that path.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine there may have been more than one, because I know that there was a plantation on Shelter Island, for example. So I have to imagine there were others.
Oh, there are many scattered throughout the country, and many that are still yet to be discovered. In fact, African Burial Ground National Monument is called that because they were excavating that area down in the Wall Street area to put up a building, an office building, and then they discovered that was a burial ground under there. Mm-hmm. So they had to halt the construction so they can preserve the grounds. And then what they worked out was they said, well, we'll still build the building, but we'll also have an area that's dedicated as a national monument to this burial ground, and there's a museum there that the public can exhibit. And it just tells us more about the history of New York City. So you're
Preservation is
right that
so
they're out
important.
there and they're taken
It's
down.
so important. I'm thinking the writer is escaping me, but I remember seeing a photograph of a wonderful writer and the place where he wrote a very memorable work, and then it said, "This is what it looks like now," and it was like a movie theater. It was, and it was just. I'm just thinking about how many countless stories and how much of our history that we do end up losing. Preservation and of course, people tend to say when we don't talk about or are honest about our history, we put ourselves in danger of repeating it. And as you mentioned, we want the march of progress to be forward, right, and not
Well,
circling back.
that's a lot of what my photography is about. I like to uncover hidden beauty, hidden history. When I photographed Sagamore Hill National Historic Site in Oyster Bay, which is Theodore Roosevelt's home, and
Oh,
it was his
wow.
presidential. Yeah, that was fantastic to photograph it. But when I photographed it, I didn't want to just center on him. That's the easy thing to do because he's kind of the
Right.
superstar and he's larger than life. But I focused my photography in all the rooms that represented the entire household. So that included his wife, his children, and also his house servants. And so you get more of a complete picture of what it's like to have been Teddy Roosevelt living in his home. And I'm doing the same thing with George Washington. I did the same thing at the William Floyd estate. And I'm even doing that with my street photography in New York City. When tourists come to New York City, they tend to photograph the obvious things, the Radio
Right.
City Music Hall. And that's all well and good. They're iconic locations. But I try to focus on the people that I encounter in New York City, which is unlike any other place in the world that I've been to. And all their quirks and their humanity, and it just gives you some insight into the complexity of the human condition. And so these are photographs that are not just pretty pictures to look at, but to hopefully linger over and to provoke thought over. And that's kind of what I'm going for. They're not easy pictures to consume in the sense of the kind of pictures we see getting thousands of likes on Instagram, for instance. They require a little more thought. They can be appreciated better, I think, when they're larger, because a lot of times when I'm photographing, I'm also capturing details in the background and the foreground that actually speak to what's in the center of the picture.
Well, and
So it's a different way of looking at things.
metaphorically, when you think about the people and the things that you are focusing on are often very seriously underrepresented or ignored or actively erased, etc. To make them larger metaphorically, you are bringing attention to, you are sort of making up ground. It's
Oh,
equity.
no
It's
doubt.
equity in action, and you are creating a legacy of, sort of. You want to talk about like wrongs being righted? I don't
Hmm.
know. I kind of see that in your work and what I imagine it is hoping to be. It also reminds me very much of a hero of mine in the photojournalism world, Amy Vitale, who I saw as an undergrad. I got my degree in photojournalism from the University of Missouri, and I remember her coming to speak to us, and she talked about, when you go to do an assignment, etc., and you're overseas or wherever you are, to do exactly what you are doing, which is don't follow the crowd and the press pool, etc. Find your own story. Go somewhere else where there are no cameras.
I couldn't have said it better. You remind me of the writer and philosopher Susan Sontag, and she's written a lot about photography, what it means, what it's about. And I might be paraphrasing this, but she said something to the effect that the photographer kind of points to something and confers importance
Yeah,
to that thing that they're photographing.
absolutely.
And that's very meaningful to me because having been in the music industry, the easiest thing I could do as a photographer is to photograph celebrities. I'll get instant likes and people will love it. They'll buy it, they'll sell it, they'll exhibit it. But celebrity means to celebrate. And I'd rather celebrate the common person, the people who are, don't get that kind of attention and pointing my finger or my camera at them and conferring importance to them. And of course, the photograph lives on. So like with these books that are coming out that I'm doing, hopefully long after I'm dead, people will be looking at these things and looking at them not just for pleasure, but as historical documents of what life was like back in New York City in the time that we're in right now.
I'm sure they will be. And I am very excited about your work. Xiomaro, where can we see your work right now? I guess we can go to Xiomaro.com. That's Xiomaro.com. And of course, we can pre-order your book if we're interested. Street Photography of New York City, Street Haunting in the Big Apple, which I hope you'll come back on to talk about later next month or in coming months. But where might we be able to find your work locally or otherwise?
Well, right now, if folks want to travel a little bit, there's a permanent exhibition in New Jersey. That's going to be at the, what's it called here? I got so many places I have some exhibits at. This is at the Jockey Hollow Visitor Center, which is part of the Morristown National Historical Park. That's a very important park because it's one of the places that George Washington had his headquarters during the fight for independence. So again, it's very important to me that people start contemplating, how the country was founded as we approach the 250th anniversary.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's on permanent display. And then if they go up north to Connecticut, I have two exhibits there. It's also been there for years now with Congressman Jim Hines. So he has it on exhibit in his district offices in Bridgeport and in Stamford. And he's had it there since, I don't even know when, 2011, I think now. It's been a while, so I'm very grateful that he has it. But he's very proud of Connecticut. He's very proud of Weir Farm National Historic Site, which is what those photographs are that he has on display there. And as I mentioned earlier, the Seat of Action Long Island Museum, that's going to be coming up next year. I do have one in England if somebody wants to travel out there. That's actually going to be ending on the 12th of October, but it's part of an outdoor exhibit at the Seafront Gallery. So I have a photograph there I took of one of the islands in Boston Harbor. That was also commissioned by the National Park Service. And I think that's everything I've got going on for right now.
Oh my gosh. Well, we'll have you back and we'll do this in person next time. I'm Gianna Volpe. That was Xiomaro. Again, at the website Xiomaro.com. And you, whoever you are out there, you are awesome. And you're listening to Long Island's only local NPR radio station, WLIWFM.